Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's Confirmation to Go. This week, we're getting close to the very end of the commandments. We're looking at the 9th and 10th commandment. After that, we only have the close of the commandments to go. Now, please do start looking at the close of the commandments now. It's the longest piece of memory work we've had up to this point, and I certainly don't want you to be caught out by it. So do take a look at the close of the commandments, please. But for today, we have the 9th and 10th commandment. They're both about coveting, and we'll unpack that today. All right, the 9th commandment. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not scheme to get our neighbor's inheritance or house, or get it in a way which only appears right, but help and be a service to him in keeping it. Well, let's break this down. Of course, first off, just a house. We still have this key word, neighbor, right? That continues to persist in our language here. And we, of course, as always, have our first commandment connection. Very important, because all of these are connected to each other and connect to the first commandment in that way. All right, then we get our do not, and then we get our do. Now, this one is a little bit different in as much as the do not is quite a bit longer, and there's some ideas in here that can be quite tough, right? What is scheming? What exactly is an inheritance? The appear of right. In the old one, it was called a show of right. But that's what's going to make this vocabulary so important, right? Because if they don't know what these words mean, they're just going to be letters or sounds that they're going to memorize. But if they know the word and they start to learn what it means, it'll be very good for them. So this is one where you're going to want to hit the vocabulary very strongly. All right. And you notice that we have two things here. We don't scheme to get two things, our neighbor's inheritance or house. And then the second thing is, or get it in a way that only appears right, get connecting both of them. And then the positive here, but help and be of service to him in keeping it, which is a very similar refrain that we've seen in the other commandments. So we're supposed to both help and be of service. All right. This one, I think as long as you work on the vocab, it will come together pretty nicely. And again, notice how I've broken it down to help create the chunks that you would use for the echo method. Let's look at the vocab here. Well, first off, that word covet. And it's a little bit tricky because it's okay to desire things. We don't want to just say desire, because God allows you to want things, right? Adam wanted a wife, a helpmate. That was his desire, so it wasn't that wasn't a bad thing. So instead, what we were going to call covet is selfish desire. And you have to be very careful with yourself, because we can create all kinds of justifications for our desires, right? Well, it's okay for me to want this thing, and it's not selfish, and we come up with all kinds of little ideas in our head to make it so. Little schemes, as it were, that we even fool ourselves into thinking that what we're doing is right. You have to be very careful with that. But coveting, and again, as a desire, it's of the heart, right? Something I really want. And I think, one of the things we can get into our head is that, if I just get this one thing, I will be so happy, and everything will be okay. Well, the one thing we need is God, right? Or the one desire of our heart is supposed to be God. And in this way, we already see that the coveting commandments are connecting us even more strongly with the first commandment. And that's something to be mindful of, right? That what my heart is supposed to desire is God. All right. Well, certainly not our neighbor's house, but you can want your own house, right? That's a good thing. How are we going to describe a house? And I struggled with this a little bit. It covers more than just a shelter and lots of other things. Even if you lived in a tent, that would be your house. And so I think we're going to go with this. A place of your own. Right? And I think we can appreciate that, right? Our house is also our yard, or whatever else, and that is ours, and it's not other people's, and we have say over what happens in that place. And that makes a house a very special thing. It isn't just any other piece of property. Now, of course, ultimately it's God's. We know that. But God has allowed each of us to have our own house, our own place where we have some say and some control. And it's not right to take that away from another person. All right. Scheme. Scheme is an interesting word. And I've decided to put it this way: plot, which means it takes some time, right? Some consideration to carry it out. Plot to avoid punishment is kind of what I've come up with for scheme, right? Because it's if we were just taking their house, right? That would fall under stealing. But this is a thing where we're trying to do it. We're trying to get it in a way that it legally becomes ours, and you have to put some thought into that. That's why schemes and plots are lots of times connected to crimes, right? It's not that hard to kill someone, but if you want to get away with it, you have to plot. You have to scheme to set things up so that you might get away with it, right? And that's always the thought that goes into it. It's the crime itself isn't that hard. It's the getting away with it part that's hard. All right, inheritance. It's interesting, a place of your own, and then what is given on death. Right? And in the Bible, they had a real rigid system of who should get what. Right, the oldest child should get the oldest son should get the double portion of the property, but that should be allotted equally after that. All of the things like that. Of course, we have a famous stealing of an inheritance in the Bible, if you think about Jacob and Esau. So we actually have a story that covers this in Scripture. All right. The one thing we'll note about house and inheritance is we're not just talking about little things. We're talking about kind of the big things, the enduring things. And I think those things are still true today. I want to have a place of my own, and I want to be able to hand something on to my children. These are kind of defining characteristics, and I think God-giving defining characteristics for us. We, of course, in sin misalign them and give undue weight to them. But these are good things for us to have. We want to pass things on to our children, and that's why we shouldn't take them. And so really this coveting idea is hitting on more than just property, like the seventh commandment, thou shalt not steal, is touching on. All right, so do it in a way that just appears right. And appears right is lawfully correct, right? It's legal, but... right, and that's a big contrast word, right? But not morally correct. And there's lots of movies based on this, right? Where somebody's trying to scheme to get the mortgage to a house or get the inheritance or things like that. Boy, we understand coveting, and we see people, and we understand how vile it is. It really does push you into all kinds of nastiness, just wanting with your heart something so badly that you would do all kinds of other bad things, including lie and cheat and steal and even murder to get it. And this is something that God talks about, of course, right? Is that out of the heart, this desire of our heart, comes every evil thing, and how important that is for us to appreciate. It's not the other way around. It's not sin comes in and makes our heart bad. It's our coveting heart that leads to all kinds of other sin. And the Bible really does say coveting is such a dangerous thing for us. All right, well, we should be of service. And of course, service here is just offer help, right? Don't try to take it, but offer help to make it be good. And one of the ways we can do that, you can only help people so much, but you can also help them to prevent squandering. You can also help them to not take away their house and inheritance from themselves. People squander the good things that they have, and they ought not to do that, right? Appreciate the good things you have and take care of them because you're a steward of them. All right. Well, I hope that's helpful. The 10th commandment will be similar in some ways, but in that case, we won't be talking about inanimate things, but we will talk about living things, and especially our relationships with other people. God bless you and have a wonderful day.